Welcome to Consider This. I'm your host, Joe Clark.
And I'm Angie Kinzer.
Hey, and for those of you who wonder why I'm saying good evening, it's because you are watching us at 5 o'clock on Tuesday evenings. A lot of you are watching it, or listening to us rather, on Tuesday morning, or Saturday mornings, I guess I should say, 6 to 7 a.m. on WIBC, and other stations around the state at different times. Welcome all of you. If you want to watch us stream live on video where you can see pictures and occasional drawings, you can do that just by going to our website at yourlifeafterwork.com, our Facebook page, either way that you would prefer, 5 p.m. Tuesday or evening, Eastern Standard Time from 5 to 6 p.m. Angie, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
You always have our introduction. What are we going to start with tonight?
I do. U.S. News and World Report had an article come out about the top fitness trends of 2020.
Ooh.
But first, there is a difference between fitness trends and fitness fads. What would you think that would be? Yes, because
a trend, by definition, would be an increasing movement in a certain direction. A fad would be something that comes and goes and disappears.
Exactly. So
wow, I got that right.
Well, you don't. Yeah, for instance, a new fitness fad that's out right now is goat yoga. And
that should die.
That's where there's a bunch of little goats.
I am a Shark Tank freak. I will never forget the night that they pulled the goats out and showed that on Shark Tank.
So, yes.
And one of Barb's friends from Ball State does goat yoga.
Yeah, it's a thing. But they're saying that with
hopefully
fads,
fading, disappearing.
With fads, you have a lack of commitment because, yes, it's not necessarily going to stay there long. But there are some new fitness trends. And the top fitness trends are...
Now, how do we know... Well, just stop. How do we know that a trend is going to last for an extended period of time?
I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know the answer to that. But, I mean, in all fairness, if you're going to say something is a fad, we don't know that goat yoga can die or will die. We can only pray. Right? We don't know that something that appears to be a trend will continue. Right? We don't know that. But anyhow, go ahead.
And you would know more about that reading Atomic Habits or Little Habits or whatever.
Tiny Habits, with BJ Fogg, I'll talk to later on this evening. And he'll be part of our show coming up forward.
Yay. Well, here's the 3 top trends, fitness trends. We got the high intensity interval training, like CrossFit.
Absolutely.
Working with a personal trainer.
Yep.
And
I have 2 of those.
Functional fitness training, which is sport specific, like golf training, which is exercises that work.
See, I would argue it's even more functional medicine doctors. And I have 2 of those, one that acts as my family practitioner and then a specialist that does that. Health matters. We're going to talk about that tonight. Join us right here on Consider This program. 800-928-4001. Give Angie a call. We'll take a break. Be right back. Hey guys, so happy to have you along with the streaming video part here of Your Life After Work. The Consider This program. If you got a question or comment, go to the website, yourlifeafterwork.com. You can leave something there. Happy to have you along. Angie, did you find out who was on who was answering questions?
I didn't.
You didn't?
I think it is Grant. I mean, that's what was
Hopefully
my guess.
Hopefully it's Grant. We think it's Grant tonight. But if you got a question or comment, go ahead and send it in. We're going to talk about something that is near and dear to my heart. I have a lot of friends. I've been very, very blessed to be in the business world younger than most. And so many of my friends are 10, 15 years older than me. And you're going to hear me talk about a secret to life. And that's that a man that has his health will have 1,000 wishes. A man without his health has but one. And we're going to talk about that, what to do about that. And that's why Angie had the introduction that she did. So what's our first topic?
We're going to talk about special needs trusts.
Yeah. This is a tough one, guys. I will tell you, if it's close to your heart, you know how much it resonates. If it's not close to your heart, you may not understand the importance and the significance. But Angie and I are going to try to break that down. So since I've been wrong in the past with my producer studio, Casey, are you back there? Who's running the show tonight?
Jen.
It's Jen. All right. So Jen is on the machine tonight. Jen, go ahead and start us. Hey, is there anybody in your life that you care about that's going to need special attention the rest of their lives? Sometimes they call that special needs. Sometimes they just call those special people. Regardless, we're going to talk about it tonight on Consider This program. I'm your host, Joe Clark.
And I'm Angie Kinzer.
Happy to have you along. Hey, there is an issue that people have where you have somebody in your life, a grandchild, a child, somebody that you feel extra responsible for, somebody that you genuinely want to provide for. And we get caught up in a mixture of laws that come from the government, laws that come from federal assistance in terms of Medicaid and perhaps even Medicare, and your own personal wishes. We're going to talk about things that you want to consider inside of those issues tonight. And as always, we'll let Angie go ahead and answer the questions. But if you've got a question, something you want to know more about a special needs issue, that's how they're deemed in public society, give us a call at 800-928-4001. Just ask for Angie. I do believe we have a checklist that's put together of things that you need to consider, but we're more than happy to have that conversation with you and your legal counsel. So go ahead, Angie. You can start it off.
Okay, well, in talking about special needs, there is something, and we've talked about it before, called a special needs trust. I was hoping you could explain what a special needs trust is and how it's different, I guess, from other trusts.
All right, so let's start with the concept of a trust. So when you think about a trust, and I'm going to hit this a lot, probably every show because it's so important and near and dear to my heart. When you talk about a trust, the name of the trust is nothing different than a company. Trusts don't die, people do die, right? So Joe Clark will pass away and hopefully go to the right place, go home. My trust, in theory, won't die. A company won't die if it's left properly handled upon my demise. So you have a trust. Now you have a grantor. The grantor is the person who puts assets inside of the trust. It's called funding, if you will. They make the gift to the trust. You have the trustee, which is typically the grantor, mind you. That's the person in charge of the trust. And then you have beneficiaries. That's what happens inside of a normal trust. So Barb and I, as husband and wife, make a gift to a trust. We are the trustees. Something happens to us mentally, physically, or death. Somebody else, called successor trustees, kicks into play. And eventually, upon our demise, the assets are distributed over a period of time to our children and our charities. That's the way a typical trust works. What happens, Angie, in a special needs trust, and whether we like it or not, and whether we want to debate that or not is another story, but whether it's autism, whether it's, pick one, ADHD, pick something out there that limits a child's ability from being able to function in society because of a disease they have, not something that they have. It's a disease. It's a challenge that they're fighting. When you look at that, they are able to get, in many cases, many situations, they're able to get support from the federal government or the state government in the terms of Medicare or Medicaid. So what a special needs trust does is says, hey, I've got 3 kids. 2 of those kids are going to be normally functioning in society the way that we would hope and expect everyone to function. The third, however, has a special need. And because of his special need or her special need, they're eligible for governmental assistance that we pay for, right? As taxpayers, we put money into that system. So never feel bad about using it. Ever. Don't let yourself do that. We pay for that. But what would happen in many trusts that we see come in, or many estates that we see come in, people will walk into an office. They'll have 2 children, and then the third has a special needs issue. And the money's divided equally between the 3, and that's the last thing that you ever want to have happen. Because the third, when you leave them proceeds of your estate, will no longer, in many cases, be eligible for some of that governmental assistance. And so what a special needs trust is essentially a document that says, hey, I love child A, I love child B, and I love child C. Child A can get assets this way, child B can get assets in the same way, but child C can only get assets in a way that will not limit, especially from a healthcare standpoint, their special needs benefits that they get, that you as parents, grandparents, brothers, and sisters paid into as taxpayers. So never feel bad about that. But that's what a special needs trust is.
So is a special needs trust considered income?
Well, here's the key. So it has special definitions, Angie, what has to happen inside of that trust, and there's very particular language. So let's be very, very clear about this. I do not play an attorney on TV, radio, or my newspaper column. I may be on all 3, but not in terms of being an attorney, right? My job is to assist you, to stand beside you as a family, to help you find as a trustee, to help you find the right support, the right legal representatives to help you get the things that you need in these scenarios, right? So when you look at it, what you want to make sure is that child that is a beneficiary of a special needs trust only gets distributions based on things that do not jeopardize the public support that they're eligible to receive. So you can never pay for things like food or shelter, things that they have to have. What you can provide are things that aren't requirements of life, but make life better, right? That's the best way to put it. And I can give you examples, but that's really what it comes down to.
How does a special needs trust affect Medicaid?
Well, that's the whole point. If a special needs trust is established correctly, it has no problem with Medicaid. Now, here's the thing, guys. Do rules change? And the answer is yes. You find me a rule in the tax code or legal representation that doesn't change, and I'll be shocked, right? I mean, they change across the board. 10 Commandments, they may not change. Everything else seems to be adaptable to society. And so what happens when you have a competent attorney and they put in a special needs clause that says, should any of your beneficiaries, and this should be part of your trust, right? So when we talk about trust, one of the reasons to have an appropriate trustee is to make sure that your documentation is not necessarily correct in legal recourse. It's not my job as a trustee for people to be able to be an attorney, to play one on TV, radio, or newspaper. I'm not. But to be able to serve as a corporate trustee, my job is to make sure, hey, did we cover that clause? Did we cover the special needs issue? Did we cover the fact that you have 3 perfectly normal children today? And what if something happened to one of them where they were in a car wreck, or they had an accident, or they had an aneurysm? What's in your trust to cover a circumstance not yet foreseen? And that's what I call a contingency procedure. And when I look at the best documents, those kind of things are there. And those are the kind of documents with multiple attorneys that I'm trying to work with as trustees for people to make sure that those things are covered. But what that essentially means, Angie, is these are ways to make sure that your estate is, for your beneficiary who has a special needs challenge, that those assets are not lost. Do not, ladies and gentlemen, do not put those on, do not make your other children the bearer of being able to distribute those assets to the child. They may have the emotional desire, but that doesn't mean that they have the legal or fiduciary understanding requirements of what needs to happen to be able to do that the best for you. Don't put that burden on them. And that's why I agree to serve as a corporate trustee. It's why the Financial Enhancement Group is legal to do that. You can give Angie a call at 800-928-4001 to get signed up for your Next Steps meeting. We can talk to you about this and other things.
How are taxes paid on a special needs trust?
So the way any trust is set up, that if it's a revocable, it is what's deemed a pass-through entity, meaning that it goes from my trust to Barb and I's tax return, right? It goes straight through. Nothing happens inside of the trust. By definition, once the trust becomes irrevocable, where no changes can any longer, transpire, when that occurs, the trust, by definition, needs an EIN number in a lot of people's minds. Technically, if you're still alive, it probably doesn't, but let's just pretend that it does. It needs an EIN. That's a taxpayer identification number. If the income stayed inside of the trust and was not distributed to the grantor or the beneficiaries, it's taxed at trust rates. Anything above $12,400 or $500 this year in 2020 is taxed at the highest tax rate possible, which this year is 37%, right? I mean, just a phenomenal sum. So you don't want income left inside of the trust. For a special needs trust, by definition, you don't want it to produce income, right? Because that income would go against the Medicaid or Social Security requirements that they may have in terms of the income that they can produce. So you want assets that are not producing dividends, not producing interest, that may only be producing capital gains, and you want it defined in a very, very particular way. I am not an expert in this. I understand exactly how it needs to look. I can serve as the trustee in overseeing it, but this is where an attorney really needs to come into play. People are specialists for a reason. And when you have somebody who says, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, and that, and the other thing, you really need to step back and go, really? There's 29 people on our team at the Financial Enhancement Group, and there is a reason for that. I believe we have reached a point of complexity in the financial arena where no one person can do this. So everybody's on a salary, everybody has a 401k, everybody who wants it has health insurance, and everybody works together. It's not you get commission if this is your person. We are not franchised units at the Financial Enhancement Group, which is what I see happen so many times. Somebody says they work for a company, but what you find is there's 2 or 3 people functioning as a franchise. They have nothing to do with the rest of the company. They just use this big, broad name to make themselves look larger. And in my personal opinion, that's not what I want. I want a group of people who are working together collectively for my best interest, collectively for your best interest. And that's what we do at the Financial Enhancement Group. Give Angie a call at 800-928-4001. Get signed up for your Next Steps meeting. In 90 minutes, we'll tell you things you need to consider today, things you're going to want to consider in the future, and if we choose to work together, things we'll do for you and we'll put it into writing. 800-928-4001. Hey, folks, glad you're here. You got questions or comments? Do not forget to send them in. Happy to have them. Special needs are one of those issues. And, every time I turn around and say, well, we really don't have that in our lives. Actually, we do in several different cases. They're not, fortunately, in my brother's family or my family directly, but we do have them in terms of cousins and other things that are out there. It's a growing world, and it's things that people need to understand because many times, in my opinion, trusts are set up incorrectly. One of those things that Angie and I'll talk about in the coming weeks is why you should never leave a Roth IRA to somebody in a special needs situation. What's next, Angie?
What to consider before you take Social Security.
Here we go. Go ahead, Jen. Well, good morning and welcome back to Consider This Program. I'm your host, Joe Clark.
And I'm Angie Kinzer.
Hey, you know what? We saw somebody the other day. I was told when I got into this industry back in 1987. That was a long time ago, 32 years. I was told when I got my CFP in 1996 is when I graduated. 94 is when I started the education. I was told the largest decision that the average American would make was buying their home. The other day we sat down with a family. They had taken Social Security early. And I will never beat on you for decisions that you've made in the past. That makes no sense at all. That is not who we are. It's not what we do at the Financial Enhancement Group. We try to take where you are today and make your future better. We help reduce financial regrets. That's our job, right? But they ask a very specific question. We took Social Security early. We know now we shouldn't have based on listening to your radio show, based on what you tell us. But what did it really mean? They live in a $180,000 house. I don't know what size of house you live in Indiana, East Central Indiana, Madison County, Tippecanoe County for my Lafayette folks, Brownsburg, where our new office is, Fishers, where our other office is down. I don't know what the cost of your house is, but the cost to them from Social Security, assuming they lived to be a normal life expectancy, was a little over $600,000 error. When we say we help people reduce financial regrets, that's really what we're talking about. How do we save more than $500,000 in assets? And there's some of you that are out there that are going, hey, Joe, that's just not the case. What if they died early? Well, they could have. They could have. But the Social Security Administration is based on the largest actuarial pool in the history. Over 300 million of us are involved, right? And you're competing against people who stumbled out of bars last night at 3 a.m, people who've not seen dentists, people who've never gone to doctors. You're competing against all of them. And at the end of the day, I'll bet on you. I'll bet on us more times than not that our life expectancy will be longer than that of the average. It is a perfect actuarial pool, my friend. And for most of us, if we take Social Security at the wrong time, it is a $50,000, $100,000, or multi-$100,000 error if we take it at the wrong time. We help people reduce financial regrets.
So what happens to benefits if you claim before your full retirement age?
I think more and more people are catching on to this. So we all have an age. I'm 53. I was born in December of 66. Christmas Eve to be exact. So you can send me a birthday card so you know it. Or you can try to hack my Facebook page, which happened this week. So please be careful. There are idiots in the world that have nothing better to do with their time, apparently, than to do that. Anyhow, just kind of side note.
Okay, sorry.
I was frustrated.
Okay.
Amanda texted me, "You've been hacked."
Oh, shoot.
What does that mean? I'm sitting there, I'm hacked. I'm watching TV with my wife, for God's sakes. Anyhow, side note, squirrel. for those of you that are not easily distracted. When you take Social Security before your full retirement age, we're all eligible to take it at age 62. And you lose 6% per year. It is actually figured monthly, by the way. So every month you hold out, it's a little bit less. It's 6% per year you lose up to age 62, and it lasts forever. Every year you wait beyond full retirement age, up to age 70, that's as far as you can go now, you actually gain 8% per year. And as I tell people in the office, if you could close your eyes and be immune to all other outside influences, meaning your health, meaning any other resources you have, pensions, what we call mailbox checks, IRAs, other assets that you have. If you agree to die on time, Angie, which is about 84 and a half, right? So once you make it to age 60, your life expectancy is essentially 84 and a half. If you agree to die on time that day, it really doesn't matter what time you take it. Again, presuming that you have no other outside influence. But if you do have an outside influence, you do have other assets, you do have other issues, you do have different beneficiary type issues that are out there. Your spouse is different than 10 years of your age. She took it or he took it differently at a different period of time. All of these things come into the computation so much that my gut after 32 years can kind of look at you and say, Angie, this is probably what you ought to do. And I still run it through a computer. We still send Dean Huddleston, our advisor in Lafayette, to Social Security School to make sure that he understands and has the technology to be able to give you an exact answer. This is not a simple situation, and you want to make sure that you get it right.
We keep talking about full retirement age. How do they calculate that?
Government does. And again, it's the largest actuarial pool in history. So when you go back to Social Security, it came into play when it was originally done. None of it was taxable, right? And somewhere in the 50s, 50% of it became taxable. Somewhere, I believe it was in the 80s, is when up to 85% of it became taxable. There was no cost of living allowance until, I think, 1974, middle of the 70s. The highest inflation rates we ever had actually peaked in 1980. But you go back and you look at this scenario in terms of how Social Security looked. The life expectancy for a person when Social Security was established was age 64. Benefits didn't start till 65. You were never, Angie, designed to get this benefit, right? It was there as a safety net. It was there as a recourse, not as your retirement policy, right? And my life kind of migrated over a period of time to where we're all entitled to a Social Security check. Now, we all pay into it. So I understand when people say, I deserve some of this money back, I paid into it. I get that. Please don't take that. You know, I had a dear friend and family that I took care of for 25 years, and I'm not sure even in 2002, which was a horrible year in the market, 2008 and 2009, obviously the Great Recession, he never said anything but inspiring words to me. Jim looked at me and he said, Joe, you got this. I trust you. I care about you. You're taking care of my family. You got this. But I made the mistake of calling Social Security an entitlement one time. And he looked at me and he had these big eyebrows. I mean, I don't know if you can imagine these eyebrows. And he looked at me with these eyebrows and he said, if you ever call that an entitlement again, we're going to have an issue. And he was one of those people who happened to pay into it from the very first year that Social Security was established. And he lost money paying into Social Security, even though he paid it in at the highest level. Mm-hmm. So I'm very, very careful with the verbiage that we use with that because of what Jim taught me. And so many of I've so blessed in the 32 years that I've done this. You guys have helped me raise my kids. You've helped me build my company. You've helped me have a better understanding of my church, of the people that I'm around. And I've just been mentored by so many of you, and I'm so blessed. But I understand those words in terms of how they mean and the emotions that are generated from them and by them. But that's how Social Security works.
Now, can you still work and draw Social Security?
You can. Once you reach full retirement age, you can work and draw as much as you want without impact. Up to that point in time, there is actually a period. There's a some of the money if you earn too much above a certain threshold. There's some of the money that is essentially clawed back. Now, the way the process works in Social Security is when you're finally no longer working and you're back in full benefit, that money is essentially added back into your benefit. It is a tough computation. I can't tell you that I'm always comfortable that you're getting dollar for dollar back. The Social Security Administration says you are. It is a tough computation. And I will tell you, this is not easy stuff. I have watched people leave the Social Security Administration in Indiana, go to Florida for the winter, file for Social Security there, and get a different number in terms of the benefits that are there. And that shouldn't happen. We all know that shouldn't happen. But, I mean, I've watched it happen. So the only thing I can attest to is what I know for fact.
It seems so complicated. We do have a checklist for this.
We do.
Which you can get from our homepage.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So I was just saying.
It's really...
There's so many things. And I just happened to look at that checklist today when I was going through them. And I was like, gosh, there's just so many pieces to Social Security and deciding when the right time and who. Now, what about how do you know which spouse should take it first?
So there were things that were changed if you were born before January 1st of 1954. You have different issues than other people should have. After that, and eventually that will phase out, right? There won't be many of us that are born before 1954 that are already on Social Security. But things change. And you need to be aware of that. And the government has to adapt, folks. I mean, the people who lived to be 65 back in the 1950s, one of the biggest misnomers of understanding life expectancy is we're not living that much longer. It's just more of us are living longer, right? And that creates huge, huge problems on social safety nets. And so it's very, very difficult for people to say, hey, this is the way it ought to be, or this is the way that it is.
Let's squeeze in this question, and it kind of piggybacks on the last one. Should I take my spouse's Social Security if theirs is higher? What happens if I make more money before we retire?
Yeah, it's a great question. So your Social Security is based on the high number of 35 years that you have out there in time in terms of what's going on. So when you look at your system and when you look at your age, that's going to help you make that determination. You're always eligible for yours or half of your spouse's, whichever is greater, but that is based on when you took it. So if you took it early, you've got an issue in terms of that being reduced. If you take it later, that's a beautiful thing, but it's going to be based on your spouse's full retirement age, not if they waited till age 70 to be able to take it, especially if they died. You're always eligible for yours or half of theirs or all of theirs, whichever is greater in terms of that mode. In terms of transfer. But Social Security is complicated. It is one of those things you really, really need to sit down and understand. One of the most frustrated things that I've experienced was driving to Indianapolis probably 7 or 8 years ago and seeing a billboard that said Social Security is easy. Go to socialsecurity.gov, select your benefit, and you are set. And I almost wrecked the truck. That is just wrong. I mean, you're making a $500,000 decision for the average middle American making that decision. Please don't do that. Understand that it's not a singular event. It is based on other things that are occurring inside of your life. We are prepared and happy to help you answer those questions. Give us a call at 800-928-4001. Ask Angie for your next steps meeting. Somebody on my team will be happy to sit down with you. We'll give you things to consider today, the future, and what we'll do for you. Hey, folks, thanks for the question. Appreciate it. Social Security is complex. There is no way around it. And we are more than happy to answer that and to be able to do that. So go ahead, Angie. You've got a question?
Yes. It says, if I'm divorced and my spouse was the one that worked, am I in trouble with this?
Are you in trouble?
Yeah, I'll read it. You read it.
Well, that's one way to put it. And, we'll leave that alone. No, you're not. So the key thing with Social Security and being married and divorced is, were you married 10 years or longer? And I will tell you, in Lafayette, Indiana, and this is what's our next topic, by the way?
People who give away their wealth to get back their
Yeah,
health.
you know what? We're going to come back with this because this is all about the same topic, if you will.
All right, and we've got more Social
I'm going to
Security
answer this
questions.
question for you live, but we're going to come back and we're going to do it on the radio.
Okay.
So, Jen, go ahead and start the program. Hey, you know what? A man with his health has 1,000 wishes. A man without his health has only one. Welcome to Consider This Program. I'm your host, Joe Clark.
And I'm Angie Kinzer.
Happy to have you all along. Hey, we were talking about Social Security and when to take it. Now we're going to talk about health, wealth, and how they come together. And we got a question at the break. Go ahead, Ange.
The question is, if I'm divorced and my spouse was the one that worked.
And being polite, Angie refuses to add the other part of the sentence.
That's right. I'm not going to. So
but
what are the rules
you can
on that?
only imagine I'm divorced and my spouse was the one that worked. Am I in trouble? We're going to use that as the interchangeable phraseology. Here's the deal. If your spouse worked and you were married for 10 years or longer, you still are eligible for your spouse's benefit, regardless of anything else. You can, whether they apply first or not, you still have your ability to apply. You're doing it based on 10 years of marriage. So we had a person, I will not name the spouse or name the sex, but we had a person in Lafayette, Indiana that was married to 3 people in the period of time that I worked in Lafayette full time. So I'd leave on Monday mornings. I'd come home on Thursday evenings. I did that for 20 years. So I was there for a course of essentially 3 decades. And we watched a lady in the first month of me being, I did say lady, I'm sorry. We watched a person while I was there in the first month of being there who divorced a husband after 10 years and 2 weeks. She divorced another one in 10 years and 3 weeks. And the third divorce came at 10 years and 5 months. So apparently there was something wrong with the 10-year period of time. But the reality is, because I still talk to them every now and then, the reality is she understood the Social Security rules. And once you've been married for 10 years, you're able to select on somebody else's benefit. And these 3 all happened to be in the medical world that she had been married to, and she was picking the one that had the larger benefit. It was a long-term financial plan that I would not recommend. Had nothing to do with it. Just happened to be one of the witnesses that were there. But the key to the answer to this question, Angie, is if you're married for longer than 10 years, it has nothing to do with what you didn't do. It is based on you being married for 10 years or longer. You always have the right to your benefit, half of their benefit, and upon their demise, you can take the larger benefit, theirs or yours. And so one person who, in this case, could have been married to 3 different people could be providing the benefit to 3 different souls.
So if you were married over 10 years and then that person passes away, but you're not at Social Security age yet, you can still determine that later?
Absolutely.
Was the
Absolutely. And nobody can say a word, any discrimination at all. Social Security Administration is not allowed to tell you whether they have filed or not, because it's immaterial to your decision. Has no impact on them at all. You can't hurt them, which is what some people try. I'm going to file now just to get them. No, that's not going to work. Anyway, doesn't matter. You can't hurt them and you can't help them. If you've been married for 10 years or longer and you've got marriage and divorce certificates, you can go in and file.
All righty. Well, let's talk about, will people give away their wealth to get back their health? I know you have strong opinions on this.
I do. You know, I started this business. I started the Financial Enhancement Group in October of 1997. So we're, essentially 23 years old now, which is really hard to imagine. I've been in the industry for 32 years. And, I was born in 1966. So even when we started it, by definition, I was kind of a youngster, right? I was 30 years old. And, of course, I thought I knew everything, and learned since then that was probably not the case. I've had a lot of great mentors and people who've taught me, And I've been very, very, very blessed in that area, and really humbled to kind of be able to be here. But when you when you look at the world and you watch what happens to people, and I can use my own life. I mean, I was working countless hours to build a company because I really I really felt driven to build this. We have 29 people in our team. We have almost 1,200 families we take care of. It's a little over $500 million, not a little, it's more than $500 million of assets that we manage for people. I'm very, very humbled about that, but it did not come because I was at home every night at 5. It didn't come because I got up and worked out every morning, right? It came because everything I did was based around that business. And I'm not encouraging people to do that in any way, shape, or form. It's just, you can either take advice and suggestions or not. And, I took the advice of people who had built companies to help me build my company. And now I'm taking the advice of people who are 15 and 20 years older than me, saying, listen, you've built a nice company and you take care of a lot of people. It's time to take care of you. Otherwise, you're going to wind up like me. And, they're taking 20 pills a day, and, they're on all sorts of medical treatments and everything else. And they're saying, you don't want to be that. And they're right. I don't. So, I have a very strict routine, and regardless of how busy the day gets, and Angie can attest to this, regardless of how busy the day gets, 6 days a week, I work out. And
do your goat yoga.
I do not do goat yoga, you liar. Somebody said last week Somebody said last week I was being mean to Angie. I think that's hilarious. Angie is as close to a sister as, other than Roxanne, my brother's wife, and I'm still probably that. I mean, it's Roxanne and Angie are closest to the two sisters I have on the planet, and I love them both dearly. So I'm in no way, shape, or form being mean any more than a big brother would be mean to somebody. Anyhow, I do not do goat yoga. Well, let's keep that straight. But I do yoga twice a week. I have a 79-year-old mentor who runs a big company in Arizona, who did 23 miles of solemn skiing on his birthday without stopping, mind you, a little over an hour and 15 minutes to get it done. At age 79, and he says, the old rule of life is you get old and then you get stiff. And he says, no, you get stiff and then you get old, right? And so I do yoga twice a week. I do weight training twice a week. I do boxing twice a week, and I throw in a couple other workouts along the way. And I'm a Peloton guy, so I like to ride my bike with my new friends, as the commercial says. Yes. So there you go.
Hey, you did have a little bit of trivia. We have to address that before we move on. The average American eats 19,000 calories worth of what each year? This is your own question.
I give you these things. I don't read them. That'd be cheating.
Okay.
19,000 calories
a year, the average American of this item.
Well, pop would be a lot more. Alcohol would be a lot more. Bread would be a lot more. Cheese would be a lot more. Fat would be a whole lot more.
It's cold.
It's cold. It's
frozen even?
Ice cream. Yes. 19,000 calories of ice cream.
Yes. And I think that's funny because even on my strictest of diets, and, I'm actually doing keto now too, ice cream has always been my downfall. There is an ice cream you can have with keto.
There is?
Yes. It's a keto ice cream. It's awful. But it at least has
If you could see her facial expression when she said awful. Now, here's the deal. Let's get focused real quick. Here's the deal, guys. There is more to life than money. Y'all know that. I hope. And, we have to do all things in all time. And, so this is not a show about Joe. I will just tell you that I break my life down into the spiritual side, the relationship side, the health side, and the wealth side, and I do it in that order. All four matter, right? If you're not right with your spiritual side, that's your call, and where you fit into that is your thing. The relationship side and the wealth side, or the health side, I see people invert those. And I've had people and friends argue, if you're not healthy, you can't be a good friend, you can't be a good father, you can't be a good husband. And that may be true, but I care about the relationship, so I spend time communicating, talking, loving, hugging, which is why COVID is driving me insane. I'm a touchy kind of feely guy, and that's just part of the deal, right? And then you've got the health side, and it's important, and then you got the wealth side. And I can give you countless, over 32 years of my career, countless times where people have spent in amounts of money you can't even think about for some of you in order to try to regain health, because they have worked 80, 90, 100 hours a week. And I was one of those people. So this is not me condemning, right? I mean, I did that. I have this t-shirt. I have those scars to bear. And those of you who've known me for 20 years know this to be true, right? What I'm trying to tell you is don't let it happen to you. There is more to life, and you've got to figure out what that is, and you've got to divide it correctly and say, okay, this is what really matters to me, and understand, the theory of relativity, if you will. Every action, there's an opposite and equal reaction. For everything that you do in life, there's something that you're not doing. So when I'm spending time with Angie doing this radio show, I'm not spending time with Barb. Right? And that has to be that has to be offset somehow. That has to be calculated. When I'm staying an extra hour in bed in the morning instead of getting up and doing yoga, not with the goats, Angie, or when I'm getting up and not working out or not doing boxing, there's a trade-off, and you've got to figure out what that is, and you've got to be able to moderate it. I will just tell you, I have the experience and the opportunity to be around with people who can make any decision they want to in the morning. Financially, they can wake up and do anything they want to do. They don't have to go to work, right? They can do anything they want to do. And in numerous cases, they would do anything to get the health back. So let's not screw that up from the beginning. Let's make the right decisions. So what we do at the Financial Enhancement Group is a whole lot more than just trying to help people understand their money. Yes, we reduce financial regrets. That's what we do. But we really want to help you to live the better life based on the experience we have of 1,100 plus different families that we take care of. Give Angie a call. We'll sit down in a 90 minutes next steps conversation. We'll give you things you need to consider today, things you're going to want to consider in the future. And if we choose to partner together, we'll give you things that FEG will do for you, and we'll put it into writing. Give us a call at 800-928-4001. Just ask for Angie and say, hey, I want to know more about this. Doesn't hurt anything. Come on in, have a call. Hey folks, I hope that made sense to you. It is Angie likes to poke the bear every now and then, and the goat's yoga, just does not work. I remember watching Shark Tank, and I thought it was, I was waiting, because every now and then they have a skit on Shark Tank, right, where it's a joke. I was waiting for it to be a joke. It wasn't a joke. And then Barb looks at me and goes, by the way, our friend's doing this. What? Right? You got to be kidding me that, they got a goat farm.
That sounded like a goat.
Yeah. Who knows? I mean, it is what it is. All right. What's next?
Do you need a trustee? And kind of talk about the difference between corporate trustee and an individual.
Gotcha. All right. So, I'm going to do my best not to get emotional. You guys may see it on the video. They won't hear it on the radio, hopefully. But this is a touchy topic for me for numerous reasons. Part of it's 32 years, and if you know somebody who's worked for somebody 32 years and who does not become emotionally attached, they were probably working with the wrong person. I mean, that's all I don't care if you buy cars from the same person for 32 years or houses from the same person for 32 years. If you're not emotionally attached, you probably have something missing. We take care of people, for more than 3 generations. And so this is a very, 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 very touchy subject to me. So go ahead, Jen. Do you need a trustee? Do you know what a trustee is? Do you know what they will do for you and what other people might not do for you? Good morning and welcome to Consider This Program. I'm your host, Joe Clark.
And I'm Angie Kinzer.
Happy to have you along. Angie's going to set us up for a conversation that will move my emotions. It is a touchy thing. I wrote the newspaper column about it this week. You can find it in the Herald Bulletin. Come out on Saturday or Sunday morning, whichever one it is. And you can always find it on our website. If you're not signed up for it, you can get it. Do you need a trustee? And understanding what a trustee is and where it goes. We are eligible to be corporate trustees now. It's me. The Financial Enhancement Group is the corporation. If I get hit by a bus, somebody else has to be able to do it from the same entity. But this is something that I've spent the last, in all fairness, probably 5 to 7 years working on getting done. It happened in the last month. It matters greatly to me, and I assume that Angie is going to invoke the responses out of me that will explain why. So I will go ahead and let her start.
And we've talked a lot about trustees, but what is the difference between a corporate trustee and an individual trustee?
Individuals die, corporates don't.
Oh, okay.
So in my trust, even though I'm not a bank fan, I don't think a bank should be your trustee, even though most of your trust out there will say that at a certain point it has to be a bank with trust privileges or trust authority. That's because very few entities have enough capital to be able to be trustees. We have a little over $500 million that we manage. So we have more assets than many trust departments at banks in terms of what it is we have full discretion for and take care of. So we're actually larger than them in many, many, many cases, but we don't function under the same purview of what a bank would do. So it's understanding what that is. When somebody says, Joe, can you be my trustee, or can the Financial Enhancement Group be my trustee? I'm the one doing it right now, but it says Financial Enhancement Group. It's just as managing partner, I'm the one that has the authority to say who can do that and who can't. It's just me. I'm building a department under that, and when they're fully trained and ready to go, that's one thing. But in the meantime, it's me with people that are prepared to step in case I got hit by a bus. But that's the difference. But you always need to have a corporate trustee. So if I listed you as the trustee, Angie, and we were in a car together and we were both taken out at the same time, I need somebody who couldn't die. An entity can't die.
Okay. Well, I did do a little research on why a corporate trustee is important. And so I thought, I'm going to put these out there to you and get your take on it. So one, I found that it says it maintains family unity.
A corporate trustee, in my mind, is able to eliminate one of the problems that most of our families suffer with, right? So think about this from a food standpoint, right? I always go back to the food, and I quizzed you and Amanda on Monday and said, what are the five sensory things? And you guys did phenomenally well, right? Sweet, sour, bittery, savory, umami, right? Those are the 5 things. So when I look at a family, when I come in, right, there's a fear of people from a retirement standpoint of running out of money. What happens to my spouse? There's a few others that we don't go into, but a big one that happens, especially in close-knit families, is the squabbles that occur, right? And I will tell you, they occur more often than you might believe. And don't think that in-laws, somebody who married into the family, was not part of that. It happens all the time, right? So when I look at a trust, in my role as a trustee, you need somebody, in my mind, who is not a beneficiary. Right? Many times attorneys will tell you that it's okay for your kids to be beneficiaries. Legally, that is fine, by the way. You can do that legally. I just think you open yourself up to some of these squabbles that are out there, if you will. It's like taking away the savory out of a dish, or the umami, or the sweet, or the sour, or the bitter. It's removing part of the dish and opening up a risk that we don't need to have. Right. So many times people say, and I talked about this in the article this week, probably not quite as emotionally because I can't evoke the same spirit, if you will. But, it's when you look at something that's going on, I want Angie taken care of. I want my team taken care of, the Financial Enhancement Group. I want my 2 daughters taken care of, who I love dearly. I want my wife taken care of. And if something were to happen to me and I was to be taken away early, and I want that very, very well spelled out inside of a document that is done. And when you have somebody who is responsible for the entity, the trust, who is also a beneficiary, there can be conflicting and battling conversations. Do you really need to give Angie this amount of money rather than knowing that your kids are going to inherit it? I don't want a trustee to have to decide that. I want somebody who has no stake in the games, right? Somebody who is unbuyable. And, and so in all fairness, that's part of my pretense as a trustee. I build a big company. It's, financially, we've got $500 million we take care of. You can't purchase me. And that is a good thing in terms of that decision. I get to make it, whether it's right or wrong, I get to make decisions based on what I believe you, as the grantor, the person who put money in the trust, would want to have. It's why I demand personal relationships with the people that I serve as trustee. You can't just call and apply and say, hey, I want you to be my trustee without me knowing who you are.
One of the other reasons why they're saying it's corporate trustee is important, effective management of complex situations.
We help reduce financial regrets. That's what we do all day long, every day. That's what 29 of us serve our lives doing. It's our purpose, trying to make sure that you're able to get to the other side without having to go through mistakes, problems, things that are missed. We had somebody come in the other day, $2.5 million in assets. You don't have to have that, by the way, to be able to work with us, but they did. $2.5 million in assets, have zero money in Roth IRAs. And I looked at him and go, how is that? Well, because we haven't qualified for a Roth IRA. Yeah, you have. You've had earned income every year, less than $150,000 a year for the last 10 years. You could start putting money into a Roth IRA a long time ago. The money, the $500,000 that you have in non-qualified accounts, should all be in Roth IRAs today between you and your wife's name. At least half of it, if not all of it. At least half of it should be in Roth IRAs, tax-free forever, and you didn't know it. I would say a $500,000 UPA is a pretty big mistake. Those are the kind of things that we try to prevent and try to protect, right? So it's helping you with the simple stuff. It's also helping you with the complex stuff, right? The complex stuff is understanding IRD income when somebody dies, what to do with the Secure Act and the CARES Act happening virtually at the same time, and somebody dying January 10th of 2020. What does it mean for the beneficiaries? How do we get money out? How does my trust need to respond? Those kind of things.
Do you have to have a successor trustee?
If you don't, it doesn't do you a whole lot of good, right? So the trustee is the person that's in charge. It's almost always the grantor trustee, right? So in my trust, Angie, I put the Financial Enhancement Group stock that I own in my trust. I am the trustee, right? I'm the grantor. I gave the gift. I am the trustee. And then I have a series of successor trustees that come into play in the event that I am compromised or dead. And I do mean that very, very specifically, compromised. And what I'm talking about there is when I'm physically incapacitated and unable to make decisions, but more importantly, when I'm mentally incapacitated. Mental degradation, deterioration, the breakdown of the ability for me to have good thought is a critical situation. And so what happens is you have this nuclear option, Angie. So you've got power of attorney for somebody in your family. And it's a nuclear weapon, right? Either she, and I won't name her, but either she can determine where she goes on vacation tomorrow, where she banks tomorrow, what she invests in tomorrow, what house she buys and sells tomorrow, or you can take it all away, pick one, right? Now, right. I know you. I've been a part of this situation. You've chosen and elected to do not that because you don't want to take away every will and wish that this lady who's done so well, who's saved and accumulated, sacrificed. You don't want her to hurt herself, but you're not willing to take away her rights.
No,
right?
Not yet.
And I totally get it. But you don't want her to make a mistake either. I know. Right? And so what happens in most trust is you have this nuclear option. You go from one day where you can make all these decisions to the next day where you can make none. Right? And I will tell you, 32 years of doing this, and folks, I make no bones about it, I am an addict. Right? I mean, if you do not understand that I am overly passionate about this conversation, then I have failed to communicate. We're back to stripes all over again, right? I mean, there is a failure of communication. I do not like mistakes. I do not like mistakes made on my watch, ever. And what happens is people are reticent to make decisions that take away full capabilities from somebody, and I get that. The spouses tend to slip right along with the other spouse. So they even they don't have the capacity to know that something is going wrong. And I wrote in the article today in the newspaper, I talked about, the Sunday night news will talk to you about crooks and cons. I will tell you, in 32 years, the crook and con winds up being the person themselves much more than it does the neighbor, the kid, or the maid. The crook and the con is our minds slipping and us not making the same decisions. So I put together a system in place that says, okay, when you can't do this, you can't do this. That doesn't take away everything. Do not tell me that just because I shouldn't be able to run the company that I can't decide whether I'm going to Gatlinburg or the bridge at the Riverwalk in Austin. Don't take both away from me at the same. That's silly. Right? You're less inclined, Angie, to take it away if you have to take it all. And I'm still able to do some things that are important. So I work with the people that I take care of as trustee, and I'm happy to have that conversation with you. But I work with the people to make sure that we come up with a defined list of when you can't do A, you don't get to do B. And everybody agrees. You sign off, I sign off, life is good, no dispute, and away we go. Call Angie, 800-928-4001. 800-928-4001. Go to yourlifeafterwork.com. Get signed up for your next steps meeting. We'll have 90 minutes where we can talk about what you should do today, what you need to do in the future, and if we choose to partner together, what we'll do for you. 800-928-4001. We'll be right back.
Okay.
So you got me all fired up. I hope you're happy. I'm not going to sleep for a week.
Now we're doing the outro, so I thought you could tell a story.
Tell a story about what?
Yes. The taking away of the car keys or any of that kind of thing, because we didn't really, that was part of the article and it was really good.
It's tough, Angie.
I know. Well, then do you want to do something happy?
No. Well, you got happy? No, we'll do it. We'll do it.
Okay.
Go ahead. Well, good morning and welcome back to Consider This Program. I'm your host, Joe Clark.
And I'm Angie Kinzer.
Happy to have you along. I take what I do very, very seriously. And I do my best every day to take me not so seriously. I met a guy named Bobby Longshore back in 1996. He was the district probation officer for a federal court in, I believe it was Montgomery, Alabama. It could have been, yeah, I'm sure it was Montgomery, Alabama. I had 20 people like Bobby that I took care of, and they were all hated. I think their wives hated him. Hardest job in the world. Everybody loved Bobby. So I asked Bobby one day, I said, Bobby, why in the world do people like you? He said, Big Joe. He had this head that you just would go on forever. Big Joe. I said, I learned a long time ago to take what I do very, very seriously, and myself, not at all. And I've tried to live by that. I really, really have. The decisions I make when I try to help Angie and Amanda and the Vision Squad at the FEG, when I try to help our team, I do my best not to take me that seriously. But what we do is so darn serious. And when I count the millions of dollars that have been lost, and the families that have been destroyed over squabbles that never should have happened over estate planning, because I couldn't be trustee and there was nobody there that really knew their cause, or our attorney said you only needed to have your kids as the beneficiaries, and then you end up watching them fight, and you watch one kid belittle the other and destroy it, and people wind up in courts, and everything that you can imagine that you didn't want to have happen can happen. And that is just not what God signed me up for. Right? We try to help people understand how to use their money. We try to help families understand how to navigate bad situations so money can transfer to one generation to the next. We try to help make sure that you have a life. So I look at my job as a trustee, as a financial advisor, with discretion in terms of managing assets, which I've always done. We've done that since the beginning of Financial Enhancement Group. But I look at my job as to accommodate your wills and wishes during your life, to be able to oversee the financial transactions that are happening in your life at every stage to make sure that you're making the wisest decision, and to be able to complete your legacy wishes and wills. That's the job. To deal with your attorneys, your CPAs, your other advisors, to make sure that the documents are good order and right. It's a tough job. I promise to take me not so serious, but I will take that very, very seriously. Hey, thanks for joining us. Give Angie a call, 800-928-4001. Have a great week. Hey, folks, thanks for the questions, the comments. Keep them coming. Sorry if this show was a little serious tonight, but it is a serious topic. That one really, really matters to me. When you think about people's lives, their life's work, the things that they did, the decisions that they made, what they gave up to be able to have assets, and watch some of them deteriorate. It's tough. A lot of what we actually had one in the Lafayette office this last week where somebody came in and they're worried about the nursing home because that's what their friends have gone through, and they don't know that their friends don't have $1 million in cash, a pension, and Social Security, right? I mean, most of the people that I take care of live normal lives. They just happen to have saved well. And so he's worried about the nursing home. That's his biggest fear. And I can blindfolded between his pension, his Social Security, and the growth off his portfolio pay for any long-term care cost that he needs for the rest of his life, no matter how long he lived, quite frankly. But that's his fear. And many times we have fears that are talked about. What I talked about tonight on this show is a fear that people don't understand. They don't understand. They don't understand what happens when we begin to mentally deteriorate and not make the best decisions that we could. And it's hard for me to watch people do the hard lifting, say no to things that they could have said yes to, and wind up with a lot of savings that gets destroyed because of mistakes they make. So that's how I'm going to finish my career. It's doing my best to help people understand defined distribution, how to get money out, and how to create the right trustee. Have a great week. Thanks for being part of us. We'll see you soon.